Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Thursday, August 6th, 2020. And today I'm going to be taking a look at a whole new set of polls from Data for Progress and Quinnipiac University that are B-rated pollsters. They released some data today that give us a very good idea of where this 2020 election is shaping up. They released a number of polls in previous areas that haven't been polled too well. For example, Maine, statewide and in 2 congressional districts. They only have 2. In Maine's 1st and Maine's 2nd. Maine's 1st has always been a reliable Democratic state, but it looks like Joe Biden is considerably outperforming Hillary Clinton's numbers from 2016. On top of that, it looks like in Maine's 2nd district, Donald Trump is still leading. Despite him being down 8% nationwide, this district has Trump up 1%, and that makes sense. In 2016, he won this district by over 10%, which means if we were to adjust, a Clinton +2 margin on election day to a Biden +8 margin now, the numbers roughly add up. So for Trump to be ahead by 1% in Maine's 2nd district isn't too telling of a sign. But what's very telling is the fact that Biden leads in Maine by 15%. So while Biden sure increased his margin in the 2nd district based off of Hillary Clinton's, or at least decreased Trump's margin, he also raised it in the 1st district as well. Enough that the entire state, which went to Hillary Clinton by a mere 3%, he's quintupled, I think that's the right term for it. He has a 5 times as large margin of victory over Donald Trump in Maine than what Hillary had just 4 years ago. So that's pretty significant. Other than that, we have some other polls outside of Kentucky that we need to talk about, not outside of in Kentucky, and South Carolina. We do need to discuss some of these solid Republican states that are starting to loosen up for President Trump. I know that seems a very weird thing, but you also have to realize Donald Trump was able to solidify a lot of these states, making them more solid for the Republican Party than they had been in the past. For example, Indiana, a state that 8 years prior to Donald Trump's election went to Barack Obama by 1%. And then ended up going for Trump by 19% in 2016. So there's a number of states like that. I'm not saying that Biden is by any means competitive in South Carolina or in Kentucky yet, but if the data does start to add up to a point where Biden's only down 5% in South Carolina, yeah, that could be a warning sign for the Trump campaign. I don't think that's going to hold. I think that these are just outliers, but they're always interesting to see how they skew the average and see if we have any other data that actually aligns with what we're seeing here. The Data for Progress results also released some swing states. We're not going to focus too much on those. They also released some, Quinnipiac University released some Senate polls, though I do think that definitely deserves some attention. We need to take a look at that. And then they also have, some Monmouth University A+ pollsters from the United States House of Representatives. A lot here that we need to jump into and dive right through. So this is all today, which is great. I'm really excited to go ahead and start, but we're going to go ahead and skip over presidential approval. I don't think that's too important, but we're going to start off from the top. So in South Carolina, Donald Trump only leads Joe Biden by 5%. And the reason why that is significant is because if we look at the overall average in states such as South Carolina, looking at where Trump leads, he's only ahead by 6.4%. Now, that's obviously a good lead. Joe Biden's leading here by actually larger than Trump is in South Carolina and other swing states. So Joe Biden should feel pretty secure based off the margins that he has over Donald Trump. But Donald Trump is not only underperforming in swing states, but he's doing so in a number of other states. In the same type of environment in which Hillary Clinton carried the popular vote by 2% nationwide, Donald Trump was able to carry the state of South Carolina by a 14.27% margin. If Biden's outperforming Clinton by 6% based off the national average, that means the state of South Carolina very well could move down into an 8-point margin of victory. And that makes sense. A lot of these states are likely to shift with the national average by roughly the same amount. Texas went from being a 9-point state for Donald Trump down to a 1-point state for Joe Biden. I mean, the amount that we're seeing these states swing is pretty significant. Maine's 2nd district went from being 10 points for Trump in 2016 down to only 1. Yes, he's still leading, but you also have to realize if you had a double-digit victory in that state before or district before, and you're not now, you've definitely lost some voters. And unfortunately for Donald Trump, because of his margins of victory in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, he cannot afford to lose any voters. And I literally mean any. This is the map of the states that were decided by larger than 15% for Donald Trump. Actually, we have to take out the state of Alaska in this scenario. That leaves 106 electoral votes. Some notable absences: Texas, Alaska, South Carolina, Arizona, Florida, all the swing states. I don't know why I forgot to highlight Kentucky, but Kentucky, GOP state, but we need to talk about the poll that just got released from Kentucky. Maybe that's why I had it in the gray column. But 114 electoral votes, my bad. that ultimately had very solid 113. I cannot believe I forgot the rest of a second. 113 electoral votes that were very solid for President Trump. Now, Hillary Clinton had a number of solid states as well, a number of states on the West Coast, actually not all of them, a number of states in the Northeast. She was able to carry roughly the same amount of electoral votes in terms of safe margins. But Donald Trump, he should not see any type of erosion in support. When I call these states safe states, I'm talking about a 15-point margin of victory or higher. And what the new polls that came out today said, all of a sudden Kentucky is closer than before. The polls in the past have said Mississippi has narrowed up, Arkansas has narrowed up, Louisiana has narrowed up. Yes, that is likely outliers. These are likely outlier polls. They don't poll these states often because they're not swing states. It doesn't really make sense. It's a waste of money. But you also have to realize that if we're seeing a mildly respected pollster come out with data from South Carolina and data from Kentucky that's indicating not so solid of a race for Donald Trump, there are some warning signs there, especially when South Carolina went to Trump by 14%, and now the Democrat environment is 6% more friendly towards the blue party, which means South Carolina won't be in play, but the margin could actually drop down below 10%, as it was only 14% in 2016. So moving past South Carolina, we also have to see Kentucky. This is another state in which Donald Trump carried in 2016, but he leads here by 15.9%. I will absolutely classify that poll as an outlier, but in South Carolina, it looks like the average actually matches up to the data that we're seeing. But in in Kentucky in 2016, Donald Trump won this state by 29.84%, which is 30%. A 30% margin of victory reduced down to 15%. So we're starting to see this trend across a number of solid states and a number of swing states that have moved further to the left. In 2016, let's take a look at where Maine voted. In 2016, looking at these numbers, look at that margin. 3%, almost exactly 3%, just a little bit under. Hillary Clinton had over Donald Trump. In 2012, deafening margin. 2008, even more so. So when 2016 rolls around and Hillary's numbers drop from what's expected to be 56% for Obama down to 48%. There's a huge difference there. And then we go ahead and take a look at the district by district results. It doesn't get much better for Hillary. She lost the 2nd district for the first time in a while for Democrats. If we go ahead and take a look at recent election results, we can go ahead and see how they voted on, actually maybe not here, we can go ahead and see how they voted on the presidential election, which is pretty significant. Prior to, Bill Clinton, they had always voted Republican. But then once Bill Clinton hit, they'd always voted for the Democratic Party. Al Gore, John Kerry, but then they voted for Trump. See, after voting for Obama 2 times, you would expect them to vote for Obama again. And that's the same problem that a lot of these, Democrats had, expecting these states to just swoop into the Hillary Clinton column that never ended up happening. See, the reason why this is significant is because Trump was able to swing this district over 15% in favor of the right. But now it looks like he's lost a lot of that support. What was a 10-point margin of victory for Trump has eroded down to 1%. And if the election continues at this trajectory, we could likely see it get a lot worse for Donald Trump rather than better. Because in the statewide average, Trump is behind 11%. Biden is outperforming Hillary Clinton by 8% in this state. In the 2nd district, not only is Biden only down in the recent Quinnipiac University poll, but according to Colby College, Biden is up 3 in Maine's 2nd district. We look at PPP. Trump is only ahead here. Let's go ahead and see. Actually, this is old, so we're not going to talk about this. But you can see they did poll a Biden and a Trump poll from back in October. So Biden was ahead by 3% at that point. But let's neglect that one. That was prior to 2020. Now, Biden is about neck and neck with a district that went to 10% by Donald Trump won by 10% in 2016. So moving past Maine, I don't think the Maine at large needs too much more attention than what we've already given it, or the districts themselves. The 1st district doesn't really matter. We can probably skip past these data for progress polls. I really don't want to jump into these right now. I really just want to focus our time on the Senate polls from Quinnipiac University and then Monmouth University's House polls, because those have some interesting information to dive into. So in the United States Senate, the South Carolina Senate race is even, according to Quinnipiac University. And the reason why that is so significant is because South Carolina, this Senate race really should be a solid win for Lindsey Graham. I was watching 2008 election coverage because I was bored at like 3 a.m. last night, or I guess this morning. And I saw Lindsey Graham's name at the bottom of the CBS News coverage. And I was, his election was called right at poll closing time. Looking at Obama's map, I think a lot of us would be baffled at the number of states that weren't even called till late in the evening. In 2008, North and South Dakota were swing states. Nebraska was close. Looking at a lot of these states, a lot of them weren't even called until hours later. I mean, I was looking at the electoral map. Obama had 130 electoral votes. Ohio was called for Obama before McCain was able to carry, I believe, Mississippi by some of the characterization. So that was pretty significant. I mean, looking at the way that Obama completely rewrote the electoral map, or very well could have, if he had put a lot more effort into the South, yeah, those states definitely could have been bluer for a lot longer than they were expected to be. But moving past that, I mean, just seeing Lindsey Graham being called at poll closing time and now all of a sudden being behind his Democratic opponent in fundraising in a year where there's a Republican incumbent who is actually more popular than George Bush, believe it or not. Lindsey Graham is in a very close race. Whenever I say I think of Sarah Palin, and I don't like it. But Lindsey Graham being at 44% to Jamie Harrison, you have to realize that this race could actually be the new Kansas. Once Kansas was taken out of the play when Roger Marshall ended up with the win in the primary there, some people are talking about redirecting their funds to South Carolina. So Jamie Harrison very well could be running a very good campaign and possibly make this race actually competitive, because what that poll indicates is that it's no longer a safe Republican state by any means. I don't even characterize it as safe Republican, but there definitely should be a little bit more attention on that race. In Maine, Quinnipiac releases numbers with Sarah Gideon ahead by 4%. Not much changes. I think I've seen countless polls with Sarah Gideon ahead by 4%. In fact, let's go ahead and check the Real Clear Politics average. I could be wrong. I very well could be, but I don't think I am, because looking at the average, the average is Gideon plus 4.4%. I mean, looking at all these polls, there's 3 out of the 6 released that show Gideon ahead by 4%. So that number seems pretty consistent with the rest of the data that we're seeing. But then in Kentucky, Mitch McConnell only leading Amy McGrath by 5%, but then a poll the day before coming out with numbers saying that all of a sudden, Amy McGrath was underwater by 15%. Okay, that is a stupid characterization right there. I don't know why they're trying to play it safe. That is a lean Democratic state if I ever saw one. But looking at Kentucky Senate, Mitch McConnell was leading Amy McGrath by 15% at least a couple of days ago. I don't know why they don't have it on Real Clear Politics, but it was on 538, and I guess that is pretty interesting, to say the least, that it has narrowed up to a 5-point margin. These North Carolina, Maine Senate polls, again, these are always interesting, but we're not, the main focus of this video was Quinnipiac and Monmouth University. But sorry for mentioning them. You can go ahead and check those out on your own, but I'm not going to be doing an analysis of those just yet. I'll probably compile them later on. But looking at the United States House races, yay. Finally, they rarely ever poll these House districts, especially Iowa. If you look at how beautiful Iowa's congressional districts are, I mean, they're cut like a perfect cake. I mean, you could literally just take a bite out of Iowa. I don't know why I would, because Iowa caucuses were a mess, but, if you wanted to, I guess you theoretically could. But looking at Iowa's 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th district, these were all competitive races in 2018, believe it or not. And despite the Republicans holding a majority here, 3-1 in 2016, the Democrats flipped that 2 years ago. Now, the reason why the 4th district, with what you see now with the Republicans with a 20-point lead, was close is because Steve King was outed as a racist, and he was still serving. He still ran in the primary and lost, but you will have to realize that, a number of things that he said and has done in the past was dropped right before the election, and he still won. And that was very well known by a lot of the voters there. You also have to realize that some people vote early and some people are upset. If you remember back in the Montana 2017 special election, Greg Gianforte, right before the election, was accused of body slamming a reporter. Listening to the voice recording, it seemed very plausible. And you also have to realize that in Montana, they were not able to withdraw their early ballots. There were reports of the Secretary of State's office being called because of the fact that obviously not the national one, the statewide one, that some people were trying to withdraw their ballots because they had voted for Greg Gianforte. But following that released footage, or not footage, I guess audio recording, they wanted to move back their votes. So now this district is solid for the GOP. But for the 1st, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st districts, the Democratic Party should win here. Now, the reason why 2nd has a Democrat incumbent right now, but is leaning for the GOP, is because this is a Republican district. Trump won it by 5%, and the Republican Party typically does well here. The reason why it has a Democrat incumbent is because that incumbent has been in there for quite some time. He was actually the only serving Democratic representative from Iowa through 2016. But now Iowa's 1st district has moved even more solid for the Democratic Party. The 3rd district as well, working with 2 incumbents, and then the 2nd district might be a pickup for the GOP. However, it'll probably be a minimal loss for the Democratic Party given the amount of energy that they're entering into the final rest of the campaign season. So other than that, there's some other House polls you can go ahead and check out on 538 yourself. But that's pretty much it for this video. Let's go ahead and pull up my end screen. It didn't load, so we're going to click on it now. Okay. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Subscribe on the left if you haven't already, and check out the Instagram and Twitter and also the Discord server in the bottom left of the screen. Just put it into your browser and it'll give you a little invite. You can go ahead and join. And then there's a video that you can go ahead and watch tailored towards your interest, and then a playlist for my 2020 election nights. Again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all tomorrow.